If you're new to fresh feeding, raw feeding, and you don't know where to start, obviously stop in the pet bistro. We can be really helpful for you as a guide and some education. But sometimes you just have to start. I remember when I first started, I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? I had a lot of dogs as well. Again, I've mentioned that I had several greyhounds in my house. I actually did a lot of bulk feeding, obviously, because I was feeding a lot of dogs. On average, I fed about 15 pounds of meat a day or more, depending on how many dogs I had. Depending on the size of your dog, starting with something that's pre-made into a portion is easiest because you know exactly what you have to do. If your dog needs 3 patties a day, okay, I got it. Good to go. Now, as you advance, you can start mixing and matching and doing some other things. But a lot of our companies are really great at portioning it down, putting it into increments that are easy to feed and easy to give. It's a thaw and feed. It doesn't take a lot of prep time. The biggest prep time is remembering to take it out of the freezer, I would think. There's always ways to make it simple. Sometimes our dogs actually make the decision for us. So transitioning, some dogs need a slow transition depending on what's happening. If your dog already has diarrhea and gut issues, sometimes let's go. Let's just make the transition. What's the worst that can happen? What's already happening? I've also done 24-hour fasting. So dogs would come in. They would have a very stressful long haul or car ride to Michigan from a racetrack. That was stressful enough. We always did like a 24-hour crate hold. So obviously letting them to acclimate to the home they've never been in a home before. There's new dogs they've never smelt before. So a lot of times we would let them acclimate like in the home environment. In addition to that, kind of doing a 24-hour fast. And then I would transition straight into a raw diet. There's lots of ways to do it. It also depends on what you're comfortable with and what you feel like your pet will be able to handle. So there's ways to transition into a raw diet. And like I said, some people just start with topping and eventually the toppers become more of the meal and the kibble becomes less of the meal. And then we make that switch. Cats are a different story. Some cats will take right to it. Some cats, you have to play their games. I call it the Price is Right game, right? We got 3 shells and we're gonna mix it up and we're gonna offer 3 meals and we're gonna see what the cat likes. Sometimes cats you have to mix slowly with a canned meal. Sometimes you start with the little tiniest pinch of raw food mixed into a can and you do that for 30 days before you can increase. Sometimes cats you have to play like a treasure hunt game with them, hiding the food, putting it up in their cat tree, putting it under a bed, putting it somewhere that's they have to find on their own to try it. Sometimes you got to smear it on their nose. Sometimes you got to do a little wand play with them and get them playing and batting at stuff and working those hormones up and then offering the food. So it can be a little bit more challenging. The biggest thing for kitties is texture. The younger you can start with a raw diet, if you can start as a kitten, offer different textures, offer different proteins, offer different brands, offer different flavors, you're going to get a much more versatile cat and less picky than a dog. I have seen dogs though along the way. Sometimes it's a texture thing. Some raw foods are a little mushier. If it's in a bulk style package, it's going to be a little juicier, a little sloppier. Some dogs don't like that. They like it a little bit more on the dry side. Any of our staff members will be able to help you with texture and knowing the brands and what they look like and what they look like thawed and texture when they're thawed. That can be helpful. But dogs and cats, you can transition at any age. This is a misnomer that people are like, oh, my dog's 12 years old. Nope, you can transition. I've had plenty of senior dogs along my journey transition. They do really great. I had a greyhound that came up from the track, found a home, was returned. She was 8 years old. When I got her back, went right into a raw diet, lived to almost 16 years old, was a great dog. I've had customers that have transitioned to senior dogs, senior cats, especially when we get into like kidney issues or diabetes issues. Those are great times to transition a cat to a fresh food and raw food to help with their overall health and longevity. So there's not really a formula or a science or anything that's going to make one pet transition easier than another or worse than another. So it just really depends on what's going on in front of you. But that's the reason why I like all of the brands that we carry. We have every single brand has a different component to it than the next. So whether it's a topper, whether it's a protein, whether it's a formula, whether it's a texture, like all of those things that matter in how we feed the pet in front of us.